I call to order. Senator Pia S. Cayetano will lead the chamber in prayer.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Our Father and our God, mindful of our human frailties, we present our gratitude for your presence in our lives as individuals and as public servants. We recognize your unchanging goodness to us and your everlasting kindness to our nation. As we resume our session, we ask for wisdom to see through issues, clarity of mind to enable us to carry out our work in an efficient and fruitful manner, and sensitivity to the conditions of the nation and our people. Grant our nation continuing peace, improve relationships with our neighbors, and positive outlook in life. May the work of our hands be crowned with success and generate great benefits for us and our people. We ask all of this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. With the permission of the chamber, we declare 1 minute suspension of the session. Sino pang naiwan? Sino? Ha? Ha? Who are sa? National anthem muna tayo. The session is resumed. The Senate Choir will lead us in the singing of the Philippine National Anthem, after which they'll render a song entitled Rosas Pandan. The Senate Choir.
Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bagaw,
Who are out of the country? Who are out? Out of the country? One minute suspension. Bumalik ba hindi? Napunta ba si Bumbong? Kala ko na sa elevator. Ha? Sino na sa elevator? Tinatulog sa niya daw. Ha? Tinatulog sa niya raw. Like a people actually report. Malala ko ba na? The session is resumed. The Secretary will call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero S, Cayetano Pia S, Defensor Santiago, Ejercito Enrile Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Drilon.
13 senators are present. The chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2518 under Committee Report number 94. This is the legislative bill on local water districts, Mr. President.
Approval on third reading of Senate Bill 2518 is in order.
Mr. President, with the consent of the body, may we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill to inserting into the Senate Journal and Record the whole text thereof.
Secretary will read the title of the measure.
Senate Bill number 2518, an act removing the conditions for the condonation of all unpaid taxes due from local water districts, amending for the purpose Section 289A of the National Internal Revenue Code as amended.
Mr. President, copies of this measure, as approved on second reading, have been distributed to the members of the Senate last 17th of March 2015, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution. We are thus ready to approve the measure on third reading, and so I ask for a roll call vote, Mr. President.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Onasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Drilon.
13 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. Senate Bill 2518 is hereby approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading House Bill number 945 under Committee Report number 100. This is the legislative bill on the Armed Forces of the Filipino People Week, Mr. President.
Any objection herein on consideration of the measure of third reading is in order.
And so, Mr. President, with the consent of the body, may we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and Record the whole text thereof.
Secretary will do so.
House Bill number 945, an act declaring the last full week of August as Armed Forces of the Filipino People Week.
Mr. President, copies of this measure, as approved on second reading, have been distributed to the members of the Senate last 24th of March 2015, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution. And thus, Mr. President, we are ready to approve the measure on third reading, and so I ask for a roll call vote.
Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Onasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Drilon.
13 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. House Bill 945 is approved on third reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, we have another bill on third reading. With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2280 under Committee Report number 53. This is the bill on probation law, Mr. President.
Any objection herein on consideration of the measure on third reading is in order.
Mr. President, with the consent of the body, may we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and Record the whole text thereof.
Secretary will do so.
Senate Bill number 2280, an act amending Presidential Decree number 968, otherwise known as the Probation Law of 1976, as amended.
Mr. President, copies of this measure, as approved on second reading, have been distributed to the members of the Senate last March 25, 2015, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2, Article 6 of our Constitution, and we are thus ready to approve the measure on third reading. May I ask for a roll call vote, Mr. President?
Secretary will conduct a roll call vote.
Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Alan, Cayetano Alan, Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Onasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Drilon.
14 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention. Senate Bill 2280 is hereby approved on third reading.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we dispense with the reading of the Journal of the 67th Session, March 18, 2015, and consider the same as approved.
Any objection? The reading of the Journal of Session number 67, Wednesday, March 18, 2015 is hereby dispensed with, and upon motion of Majority Leader, the same is hereby approved.
Mr. President, before we go to the reference of business, we would like to acknowledge a number of guests here at our chamber. Firstly, the Brotherhood of Christian Businessmen and Professionals, Talisay Chapter, headed by Dr. Maria Argentina Neri Buenaflor.
The presence of the Brotherhood of Christian Businessmen and Professionals, BCBP, Talisay Chapter, headed by Dr. Maria Buenaflor, is made of record, and they are welcome to the Senate.
Mr. President, we also have with us the Philippine Association of Water Districts, surely to witness our third reading vote on the bill that affects their sector. We have Arturo Villasan, spokesperson of PAWD, chairman of Cabanatuan Water District, Mr. Edison Sarmiento, general manager of Carmona Water District, Ms. Cora Malaluan, chair of Metro Kidapawan Water District, Mr. Joel Baldelovar, vice chair of Cagayan de Oro Water District, Ms. Ruth Ambion, general manager of the Tagaytay City Water District, and Mr. Elpidio Legaspi, general manager of the Indang Water District, Mr. President.
With the presence of our guests from the Philippine Association of Water District is made of record.
Mr. President, some administrative matters. On January 21, 2015, the Senate in plenary approved the primary referral of Senate Bill number 2547 to the Committee on National Defense and Security, while secondary referral was made to the Committee on Youth. So, Mr. President, with the consent of the body and concerned chairpersons, I move to switch primary and secondary referrals so that upon approval of my motion, the primary referral of Senate Bill number 2547 shall be to the Committee on Youth, and the secondary referral shall be to the Committee on National Defense and Security. SBN 2547, Mr. President, is an act including the National Youth Commission chairperson as a member of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 10121, otherwise known as the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010, Mr. President.
So transferred.
Mr. President, on March 18, 2015, similarly, the Senate in plenary approved the primary referral of Senate Bill number 2702 to the Committee on National Defense and Security, while secondary referral was made to the Committee on Youth. And like the first motion, Mr. President, I move that we change the primary and secondary referrals such that the Committee on Youth be the primary referral and the secondary referral shall be to the Committee on National Defense and Security. I so move, Mr. President.
Approved.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will read the reference of business.
Messages of the House of Representatives. Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 16 March 2015 it passed the following House bills / House joint resolutions in which it requests the concurrence of the Senate. House number 5171 entitled an act naming the portion of the National Highway connecting Isulan Highway Junction to Dukay, Bagumbayan, Senator Ninoy Aquino, Calamansig, Sultan Kudarat, traversing the municipality of Senator Ninoy Aquino's President Corazon Aquino National Highway.
Committee on,
House number 5527, an act renaming the Mandawi-Mactan Bridge in the province of Cebu as Senator Sergio Sering Usmeña Bridge.
Public Works.
House number 5508, an act converting the road stretching from Barangay Sibukawan, Municipality of Tubungan to Barangay Igkabugaw, Municipality of Baras, all of the province of Iloilo, International Road and appropriating funds therefore. House number 5509, an act converting the road stretching from Barangay Poblacion East to Barangay Alegre, all of the Municipality of Oton, province of Iloilo, International Road and appropriating funds therefore. House number 5510, an act converting the road stretching from Barangay 5 to Barangay Igkabugaw, all of the Municipality of Igbaras, province of Iloilo, into a national road and appropriating funds therefore. House number 5534, an act upgrading the Bohol Sub-District Engineering Office located in the Municipality of Ubay, province of Bohol, into a regular district engineering office to be known as the Bohol 2nd District Engineering Office, appropriating funds therefore.
Public Works, Finance.
House number 5503, an act granting public elementary school students free admission to all public museums and national historical shrines and landmarks.
Education, Arts and Culture.
House Number 5531, an act renewing the franchise granted to the Radio Mindanao Network, Inc. under Republic Act Number 3122 as amended by Republic Act Number 6980 for another 25 years from the date of approval of this act. House Number 5532, an act renewing the franchise granted to the Interactive Broadcast Media, Inc. under Republic Act Number 8210 to another 25 years from the date of approval of this act.
Public Services.
House Number 5538, an act providing for a revised human organ donation and transplantation program and providing penalties for violation thereof, repealing for the purpose RA Number 7170 as amended, also known as the Organ Donation Act of 1991.
Health and Demography.
House Number 5535, an act modernizing the practice of naval architecture in the Philippines and repealing for the purpose Republic Act Number 4565, RA Number 4565, otherwise known as the Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering Law.
Civil Service, Government Organization, Finance.
House Number 5549, an act lowering the age requirement for applicants taking the board examination for social workers, providing for continuing social work education, upgrading the sundry provisions relative to the practice of social work.
Civil Service, Government Organization.
House Number 2086, an act creating a barangay to be known as Barangay Pinamuno in the Municipality of San Isidro, Davao del Norte. An act creating a barangay. House Number 2087, an act creating a barangay to be known as Barangay Dakudao, San Isidro, Province of Davao del Norte. House Number 2088, an act creating a barangay to be known as Barangay Datu Balong in San Isidro, Davao del Norte. House Number 2089, an act creating a barangay to be known as Barangay Libutan in San Isidro, Davao del Norte. House Number 5523, an act creating a barangay to be known as Barangay Friendship Village Resources, Municipality of Norsagaray, Province of Bulacan.
Committees on Local Government, Electoral Reforms, People's Participation.
House Number 4646, an act declaring December 29 of every year special non-working holiday in the Municipality of Lian, Province of Iloilo, in honor of Captain Jose Calugas Sr. to be known as Jose Calugas Day. House Number 5551, an act declaring June 11 of every year a special non-working holiday in the city of Sagay, Province of Negros Occidental, in commemoration of its Foundation Day anniversary. House Number 5552, an act declaring February 13 of every year special non-working holiday in the city of Parañaque, Metro Manila, in commemoration of its Foundation Day anniversary. House Number 5553, an act declaring December 9 of every year special non-working holiday in the province of Dinagat Islands in commemoration of the birth anniversary of local hero Robin Idera Acleo Sr.
Local Government.
House Joint Resolution Number 23, entitled Joint Resolution declaring January 3, 2015 to January 3, 2016 as the centennial year of National Artist for Theater Severino Montano, and House Joint Resolution Number 25, entitled Joint Resolution declaring February 12, 2015 to February 12, 2016 as the centennial year of National Artist for Theater and Film Lamberto Avellana.
Education, Arts and Culture.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 16 March 2015 it ratified the Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions, House Number 1641, entitled An Act Declaring the Celebration of the National Children's Month in the country in October of every year, and Senate Number 332, entitled An Act Declaring November 20 of every year special working holiday to be known as National Children's Day.
To the Archives.
Letter from the Speaker of the House of Representatives designating Representatives Matuga, Salvacion Jr., C. Alvarado, Bulot Begtang, Pichay, and De La Cruz as House members to the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee on Chainsaw Act of 2002.
Rules.
Bills on first reading. Senate Number 2715, entitled An Act Establishing a Tertiary Education Transition Fund to support, improve, and sustain higher education institutions during the transition period of the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Sani Angara.
Education, Arts and Culture, Ways and Means, Finance.
Senate Number 2716, an act amending RA Number 3019, otherwise known as the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, by making an elective official liable for any violation of this act committed during a prior term despite re-election, Senator Defensor Santiago.
Justice and Human Rights.
Resolutions. PS Resolution Number 1247, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry of legislation and report that at least 40 officials and personnel of the Bureau of Customs, BOC, are still working and receiving salaries despite having expired job contracts, Senator Defensor Santiago.
Civil Service, Government Organization.
Yes, resolution number 1248, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported increase of sextortion cases in the Philippine Central Defensor Santiago.
Public Information, Mass Media, Justice, and Human Rights.
Yes, resolution number 1249, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry of legislation on reported calls for a mining ban in Nueva Ecija, Central Defensor Santiago.
Environment, Natural Resources, Local Government.
PSR 1250, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in of legislation, the Commission on Audit report that the Philippine Overseas Employment Agency failed to implement sanctions on illegally operating recruitment agents, Central Defensor Santiago.
Labor, Employment, Human Resources Development.
PSR 1251, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in of legislation, the recent COA report that not a single flyable aircraft of the Philippine Air Force was insured as of 2013, Central Defensor Santiago.
National Defense and Security.
PSR 1252, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in the legislation and report that there is a looming crisis of onion supply in Central Luzon, Central Defensor Santiago.
Agriculture, Food, Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship.
PSR 1253, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the impending fare hike implemented by the PNR Senator Defensor Santiago.
Public Services.
PSR 1254, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation the alleged unjustified tuition increase of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Central Defensor Santiago.
Education, Arts, and Culture.
Yes, resolution number 1255, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the 2013 COA report that there were alleged deficiencies in the procurement of various supplies and equipment amounting to some 3.4 billion pesos by the Philippine National Police and some of its units, Central Defensor Santiago.
Accountability of Public Officers, Investigation, Public Order, Dangerous Drugs, Finance.
PSR number 1256, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the 2013 COA report that the Bureau of Corrections should account for the delay in the delivery of goods and services to the prejudice of the inmates and account for the questionable purchase of drugs without the proper prescription, Central Defensor Santiago.
Justice and Human Rights.
Yes, resolution number 1257, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported warning by the FDA on fake and unregistered medicines, Central Defensor Santiago.
Health and Demography.
PSR 1258, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to report that the operation of the Payatas Sanitary Landfill continues to operate as an open dam, Central Defensor Santiago.
Is it Environment? Environment and Natural Resources.
PSR 1259, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to report that lead-tainted refrigerator magnets containing high levels of lead are sold in the Visoria, Manila, Central Defensor Santiago.
Health and Demography, Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship.
Communications letters from the BSP transmitting to the Senate copies of the following certified and authenticated BSP issuances in compliance with RA 7653, circular letters 2015-11, 12, 13, and 14, memorandum numbers M 2015-12 and 13, and circular number 871 dated 5 March 2015.
Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies.
Letter from the BSP submitting to the Senate a copy of the report on economic and financial development in the Philippines, fourth quarter 2014, pursuant to RA number 7653.
Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies.
Committee report. Committee report number 120, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, Peace, Unification, and Reconciliation, and Finance, on PS resolution numbers 1133, 1134, 1135, 1136, 1137, 1138, and 1146, Senate number 2603, and the privileged speech of Senator Gingona, the third delivered on February 2, 2015, entitled Tuwala, entitled the Committee Report on the Mama Sapano Incident, recommending its adoption of the recommendations as contained in this report and for its full and immediate implementation. Sponsors, Senators Grace Poe, Gingona III, Escudero, Soto III, Ejercito Estrada, Joseph Victor Ejercito, Defensor Santiago, Paulo Benigno Bam, Aquino IV, Pimentel III, and Cynthia Villar.
Calendar for ordinary business.
Additional reference of business bills on first reading. Senate number 2717, an act establishing a medical scholarship program to ensure the availability of doctors in every province nationwide. Senator Sani Angara.
Health and Demography. Education, Arts and Culture, Finance.
Senate Number 2718, Act providing emergency relief and protection for children during disaster, calamity, and other emergency situations. Senator Cynthia A. Villar.
Women, Family Relations, Gender Equality, Social Justice, Welfare, Human Development.
Senate Number 2719, an act to enforce greater accountability in public financial management, PFM, by strengthening Congress's power of the purse, instituting an integrated PFM system, and increasing budget transparency and participation, and for other purpose. Senator Recto.
Finance.
Resolutions PSR Number 1260, a resolution directing the Senate Committee on Local Government and other appropriate Senate committee or committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report of the Ombudsman that for 4 consecutive years, local government units top the list of the most number of Ombudsman cases filed against their officials. Senator Pimentel III.
Local governments.
PSR number 1261, urging Secretary of Finance and Commissioner of Internal Revenue to adjust anew the threshold amounts provided under Section 109, Section 1, letter P, letter Q, and letter W of the National Internal Revenue Code NIRC of 1997 as amended as mandatorily required by the said law. Senator Recto.
Ways and Means, Finance.
PS Resolution number 1262, congratulating and commending actor Richard Gomez for winning the Best Actor Award the recently concluded 35th Porto International Film Festival, or the Fantasporto 2015 in Porto, Portugal on 7 March 2005 by Senator Lapid.
Rules.
PSR 1263, congratulating, commending for actor filmmaker Roderick Cabrido for winning the Special Juries Award at the recently concluded 35th Porto International Film Festival, or the Fantasporto 2015 in Porto, Portugal on 7 March 2015 by Senator Lapid.
Rules.
PSR 1264, directing the Senate Committees on Climate Change, Agriculture, and Food and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the preparations being undertaken to mitigate the effects of El Nino, particularly in the island of Luzon. Senator Lapid.
Climate Change, Agriculture, and Food.
PSR number 1265, directing the Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights to investigate it in aid of legislation the alleged system of justice for sale at the Court of Appeals and elsewhere, and other related anomalies in the judiciary, with the end in view of determining compliance with existing laws and enacting remedial legislation to uphold the competence, independence, and integrity of the judiciary and reinforce public confidence in the judicial system. Senator Trillanes IV.
Justice and Human Rights.
PSR number 1266, directing the appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the death penalty cases involving overseas Filipino workers and the delay in the disposition of overseas-related cases, particularly illegal recruitment and trafficking. Senator Paulo Benigno Bam Aquino IV.
Labor, Employment, Human Resource Development, Foreign Relations.
PSR 1267, directing the appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in legislation on the proper implementation of the revenue regulations and memorandum circulars on electronic filing and payment system by the BIR by Senator Paulo Benigno Bam Aquino IV.
Ways and Means.
PSR 1266, directing the appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation in the increase of youth unemployment and the need to create employment opportunities and formulate programs to address the needs of young Filipinos, including the unemployed youth, workers in vulnerable employment, and young entrepreneurs. Senator Paulo Benigno Bam Aquino IV.
Youth, Labor, Employment, Human Resources Development.
PSR 1269, directing the Senate Committee on National Defense Security, Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, and other relevant committees of the Senate to inquire, look into, and investigate in aid of legislation the alleged land reclamation and dredging operations of the government of the People's Republic of China on the disputed Spratly Island Group and the reported downgrading of the Philippines' claim over Sabah, with the end in view of presenting and analyzing national security implications and reviewing the Philippines' comprehensive national defense and foreign relations plan in order to uphold the country's national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Senator Trillanes IV.
Committee on National Defense and Security, Foreign Relations.
Communications from the BSP, transmitting to the Senate copies of the following certified and authenticated BSP issuances in compliance with RA number 7653, memo number 2015-14, circular letter number 2015-15, and circular number 872 dated 13 March 2015.
Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies.
Letters from the Office of the President of the Philippines, transmitting to the Senate 2 regional copies of the following: Republic Act number 10655, entitled An Act Repealing the Crime of Premature Marriage under Article 351 of Act Number 3815, otherwise known as the Revised Penal Code, Republic Act Number 10656, An Act Postponing the Sangguniang Kabataan Elections till last Monday of October 2016, amending for the purpose RA Number 9164 as amended, entitled An Act Providing for Synchronized Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan Elections, amending RA 7160 as amended, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991, and for other purposes. Republic Act Number 10657, An Act Regulating and Modernizing the Practice of Chemistry in the Philippines, repealing for the purpose RA 754, otherwise known as the Chemistry Law of the Philippines. Republic Act Number 10658, An Act separating the city of Biñan from the first legislative district of the province of Laguna to constitute the lone legislative district of the city of Biñan. Republic Act Number 10659, entitled An Act Promoting and Supporting the Competitiveness of the Sugarcane Industry and for other purposes. Joint Resolution Number 4, entitled Joint Resolution Approving the Transfer, Sale, or Assignment of the Controlling Interest in the Capital Stock of Asian Spirit Inc., now Zest Airways Inc., to the group of Alfredo, subsequent transfer, sale, or assignment of the controlling interest in the capital stock of Zest Airways Inc. to AirAsia Inc. And Joint Resolution Number 5, entitled Joint Resolution Increasing the Daily Subsistence Allowance of all officers, enlisted personnel, candidate soldiers, probationary second lieutenants, cadets, and civilian active auxiliaries of the AFP, commissioned and non-commissioned personnel of the PNP, BFP, BJMP, cadets of the Philippine National Police Academy, Philippine Coast Guard, the candidate Coast Guard men of the PCG, and the uniformed personnel of the National Mapping and Resource Information Authority, NAMRIA, from 90 pesos to 150 pesos per day effective January 1, 2015, which were signed by His Excellency President Benigno Aquino III.
To the archives.
Second additional reference of business.
Resolutions. Proposed Senate Resolution Number 1270, entitled Resolution Congratulating and Commending Iconic Actress Maria Leonora Teresa Cabaltera Honor, popularly known as Nora Honor, for being honored the Lifetime Achievement Award by the ASEAN International Film Festival and Awards at the Borneo Convention Center in Kuching, Malaysia on 11 April 2015, introduced by Senator Lapid.
Rules.
1271, Resolution Congratulating and Commending Actress Evangeline Rose Hill Egenman, popularly known as Cherry Hill, for winning the Best Actress Award in the ASEAN International Film Festival Awards at the Borneo Convention Center in Kuching, Malaysia on 11 April 2015 for the role in the independent film Sonata by Senator Lapid.
Rules.
1272, congratulating and commending film director Joseph Laban for winning the Best Director Award in the ASEAN International Film Festival and Awards at the Borneo Convention Center in Kuching, Malaysia on April 2015 for the movie Nueve Terminataria by Senator Lapid.
Rules.
1273, directing the Committee on Health, the Committee on Local Government, and other appropriate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the mounting incidents of food poisoning in the country by Senator Pimentel III.
Committee on Health and Demography, Local Governments.
1274, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an investigation in aid of legislation on the ongoing bottleneck in the registration of newly purchased vehicles and the lack of available plates despite the announcement of the LTO that they have enough license plates by Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr.
Public Services.
1275, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the need to provide proper guidelines for the submission of liquidation reports by state-owned universities and to impose penal sanction for failure to submit the same by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Education, Finance, Education, Arts, and Culture.
1276, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that lack of legislation authorizing judicial wiretapping for drugs cases hampered the progress in combating drug-related corruption by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Justice and Human Rights, Public Order, Dangerous Drugs.
1277, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that indigenous people are urging the scrapping of Republic Act Number 7942, also known as the Mining Act of 1995, by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Environment and Natural Resources, cultural communities.
1278, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the alarming report of 2 students committing suicide over their failure to secure school clearance by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Education, arts, and culture, youth.
1279, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report. There is a need to allocate a 29 billion peso transition fund to support college teachers who would be affected by the implementation of the K-12 program by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Education, arts, and culture, finance.
1280, resolution directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that the Philippines needs more drug rehabilitation centers by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Public order, dangerous drugs.
1281, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported need to review the plan to privatize COCO levy assets by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Agriculture and food.
1282, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that endangered fruit bats in the Pucashel Beach, Boracay, further declined in number due to the alleged uncontrolled development on the island by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Environment and natural resources.
1283, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that most road accidents are caused by human error by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Public services.
1284, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report the Department of Education, DepEd, wasted government funds on the procurement of textbooks that have allegedly become obsolete due to the K-12 program by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Education, arts, and culture, accountability of public officers, and investigation.
1285, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that the power situation in Mindanao is worsening by Senator Defensor Santiago. 1286, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the 2013 COA report. The Bureau of Treasury signed 2 contracts with the United Nations Conference, UNCTAD, and unlawfully paid more than 170 million in advance by Senator Santiago.
Finance, foreign relations.
1287, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that China's reclamation and construction of the South China Sea might have changed the present situation in the debated regional waters by Senator Santiago.
Foreign relations.
1288, directing the appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on inefficient regulations, undue burden, inconveniences, and harassment that the LTO has imposed on the Filipino people, such as the implementation of the no registration, no travel policy, and the reported unavailability of vehicle license plates and driver's license cards with the end view of instigating real changes in the way the LTO is discharging its functions and ensuring that the Filipino people get the quality government services that they deserve by Senator Cayetano AP.
Public services.
Committee reports. Committee report number 121 submitted jointly with the Committee on Games, Amusement and Sports and Finance on House Bill number 4605, introduced by Representative Tolentino, entitled An Act Establishing the Alfonso Sports Academy and Training Center in the Municipality of Alfonso, 7th Congressional District, Province of Cavite, and appropriating funds, therefore recommending its approval with amendments, sponsor Senator Sonny Angara.
Ordinary business.
Number 122, submitted jointly with the Committees on Games, Amusement and Sports and Finance on House Bill 4461, introduced by Representative Gullias, an act establishing the Talisay Sports Academy and Training Center in the city of Talisay, Province of Cebu, and appropriating funds, therefore recommending its approval with amendments by Senator Sonny Angara.
Ordinary business.
Number 123, submitted jointly by the Committees on Games, Amusements and Sports and Finance on House Bill number 4307, introduced by Representative Matugas, an act establishing the Siargao Island Sports Academy and Training Center in the Municipality of Dapa, Province of Surigao del Norte, and appropriating funds, therefore recommending its approval with amendments, sponsor Senator Angara.
Calendar for ordinary business.
124, prepared and submitted jointly with the Committees of Civil Service and Government Reorganization, Health and Demography and Finance on Senate Bill 2720, with Senators Recto Trillanes de Fort Marcos Jr., Maria Lourdes, Nancy S. Binay, Sani Angara, Gingone III, Escudero, and Senche A. Villar as authors thereof, entitled an act providing for a comprehensive nursing law towards quality healthcare system and appropriating funds to report recommending its approval in substitution of Senate Bill numbers 622, 109, 1237, 1264, 1840, and 2583 by Senator Trillanes IV, Lingone III, and Escoder.
Calendar for ordinary business.
And Committee Report Number 125, submitted jointly by the Committees on Local Government and Electoral Reforms and People Participation. On House Bill Number 4769, introduced by Representative Ferrer IV, entitled An Act Converting the Municipality of General Trias in the Province of Cavite into a component city to be known as the City of General Trias, recommending its approval with amendments. The sponsor, Senators Marcos Jr. and Pimentel III.
Ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we transfer Senate Bill number 2709 under Committee Report number 116 from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders.
Any objection? Hearing none, so transferred.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 2709 under Committee Report number 116.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of the measure on second reading is in order. And sponsorship? Is it?
For the sponsorship speech, Mr. President.
And
yes.
Senator,
Yes. So with the permission of the body, Mr. President, I move that the Secretary read only the title of the measure.
Senate,
Secretary will read the title
Senate
of it.
number 2709, an act granting survivorship benefits to the surviving legitimate spouse of a deceased retired member of the Office of Solicitor General.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize Senator Trillanes to sponsor the measure.
Senator Trillanes is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Civil Service and Government Organization has the honor to sponsor Senate Bill number 2709 under Committee Report number 116. Consistent with our country's constitutional mandate to recurrently review and upgrade the pension and other benefits of retirees of both government and private sectors, this bill seeks to grant benefits to the surviving legitimate spouse or dependent children of the deceased retired members of the Office of the Solicitor General. Under this measure, the above-mentioned immediate family members of the deceased retired Solicitor General, Assistant Solicitor General, senior state solicitors, and other state solicitors under the Office of the Solicitor General shall be entitled to receive on a monthly basis all the retirement benefits due to the OSG official at the time of death under the provisions of the applicable retirement laws then in force. They shall continue to receive such retirement benefits until said surviving legitimate spouse remarries or the dependent child marries. In 2009, Mr. President, Congress enacted Republic Act number 9946, amending RA 910, which provides for survivorship pension for judges. However, the benefits provided by RA 9946 are reserved only for the members of the judiciary, despite the recognition provided in the said law that said that certain members of the OSG have the same rank as judges. This measure is envisioned to respond to the aforesaid gap in the law by likewise affording the same benefits to the surviving legitimate spouse or dependents of deceased retired members of the OSG. These benefits recognize and honor those who have rendered almost a lifetime of service to our people and hopefully assist their family members who will be left behind. In view of the foregoing, I urge our colleagues to support the immediate passage of the measure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Trillanes. The Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2709 under Committee Report Number 116.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we transfer Senate Bill Number 2720 under Committee Report Number 124 from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders.
So transferred.
With the consent of the Senate, Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Bill Number 2720 under Committee Report Number 124.
Consideration of the measure is in order.
And I move, Mr. President, that the Secretary read only the title of the measure.
Secretary will read the title of the measure.
Senate Number 2720, an act providing for a comprehensive nursing law towards quality healthcare system and appropriating funds therefore.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize Senator Sonny Trillanes to sponsor this measure.
Senator Trillanes is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Civil Service and Government Organization has the honor to sponsor Senate Bill Number 2720, entitled An Act Providing for a Comprehensive Nursing Law Towards Quality Healthcare System under Committee Report Number 124. A properly governed country needs an effective healthcare system where the role of the nurses takes eminence. Nurses are vital to the country's healthcare system, being our frontline healthcare providers. It is undeniable that our Filipino nurses are among the best healthcare providers in the world. Our nurses' skills and brand of service are very much recognized and sought abroad. Aside from the medical skills and knowledge they possess, as Filipinos, they are naturally caring, which adds to this advantage. However, due to the growing number of nurses in the country, they are forced to work under job order contractual terms or seek better opportunities abroad because the government failed to address the needs of their profession and fell short in instituting measures geared towards competent and relevant nursing practice, just and humane working conditions, and promotion of professional growth among nurses. Mr. President, due to these conditions, the healthcare system is at high risk of falling apart. Allow me to enumerate some negative repercussions of our nurses seeking alternative opportunities to earn. First, many of our hospitals remain understaffed and ill-equipped to respond to the needs of the people for quality healthcare. Instead of the ideal nurse-to-patient ratio of 1:4, this ratio balloons to 1:20 in many government hospitals. Worse, a nurse sometimes handles an average of 80 to 100 patients, like in the case of the National Mental Health Center. This runs counter to the intentions of Republic Act Number 9173 or the Philippine Nursing Act of 2002, which sought to institute relevant nursing education, humane working conditions, better career prospects, and dignified existence of our nurses. Second, instead of filling up the plentilla positions for nurses, government hospitals hire volunteer nurses who become reluctant victims of peculiar employment schemes. Based on reports, these volunteer nurses who assume the full responsibility of employed staff nurses, such as workload and shift duties, but do not receive the same rights and benefits accorded to staff nurses. Ironically, are the ones paying the hospital just to be trained and to gain relevant experience. This situation also holds true in private hospitals. Instead of providing compensation to these nurses who serve the hospital, the owners, capitalizing on the large number of nursing students who need training and experience, demand payments from them, thereby profiting from this unscrupulous practice. Despite being raised to authorities several times, this practice continues to exist. Mr. President, these situations are just lamentable and something needs to be done. That's why the passage of the Comprehensive Nursing Law under Senate Bill Number 2720 is in order. This measure intends to expand the scope of nursing practice to encompass not only nursing education and nursing service, but also research and leadership and governance as inherent areas of the practice. This bill also sets a minimum base pay for Filipino nurses for government and private institutions in accordance with the prevailing salary standards set by law. in order to address the professional welfare concerns of our nurses. Further, it will enhance the powers of the Board of Nursing by including the power to create task forces or committees and offices to better organize itself and facilitate its functions and pursue its programs. Mr. President, this representation believes that the improvement of the healthcare system is a form of investment in our human resource and a key to a stronger and healthier citizenry, which is an essential factor in the development of a productive population. The enactment of this measure is intended to complement the talent and competence of our nurses by providing them with an updated regulatory framework. This measure will also equip them with the necessary tools to further improve and maintain our vibrant nursing profession in the country and provide their nurses with the necessary competitive edge to be able to compete in the international arena. In view of the foregoing, your committee urges this august body to support the early passage of this measure for the benefit of our nurses and ultimately of all our countrymen. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator
Mr. President,
Trillanes. Yes.
I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2720 under Committee Report number 124.
Any objection? Hearing none, so suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday, May 5, 2015.
Session is adjourned until Tuesday, May 5, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, May 5, 2015.